In today's video, we review what Dr Gundry eats in a day for better health and boosting energy. And last time I did one of these videos, his legal team threatened me with legal action. So let's see how we get on this time. Roll the titles.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
All right, everybody, what I eat for better health and boosting energy. Well, a day doesn't go by that I don't get a question about what I actually eat in a day. In fact, I was walking into my local grocery store yesterday and a construction worker said, "Hey, Dr. G, what are you eating?"
Let me guess, lectin-rich healthy foods, maybe?
And it was actually noon, and I said, "Absolutely nothing. Why?" And he said, "Oh, good answer." So, not a day goes by that I'm not stopped about that.
Okay, I have a question for you, Dr Gundry. Why do you make so many claims about lectins and autoimmune diseases when there is very little, if any, credible evidence anywhere to support these claims?
Now, if you've read any of my book or watched my YouTube channel, that not eating or shortening your window of eating is the number one way to promote better health and boost energy.
I would certainly agree that the evidence suggests that many people could benefit from condensing their food into a narrow eating window, but making the claim it is the number one way to promote better health is very bizarre. Health is made up of many important aspects, and if you look at the longest lived people in the world who live in the blue zones, they have 9 lifestyle habits that see them live longer and healthier lives. So they exercise and move consistently, they have meaning and purpose in their lives, they have practices to shed themselves of stress, they stop eating when they are 80% full, and they predominantly eat plant-based foods, many of which are high in lectins, that Dr Gundry believes somehow causes people's autoimmune diseases. There are other important aspects to Blue Zone's lifestyles, but to make the claim that intermittent fasting is the number one way to gain optimal health when the longest lived people tend not to follow this practice is bizarre. So let's see where Dr Gundry goes from here.
And of course, that was my answer for that construction worker. But I'm here to share with you that we should eat short to live long. What do I mean by that? In other words, compressing our eating window, the foods we eat during the day, it's not so important the types of foods that we're eating, and I'll get to that in a minute.
That is another bizarre statement to make, so it'll be interesting to see how he clarifies that statement.
As long as we restrict the time period that we're eating those foods, makes all the difference in the world. And it's a powerful tool to allow me and you to have some of the foods that we want to eat without worrying that that's going to have a profound negative impact on our health.
Again, there are many factors that govern health, and the amount of calories that you eat and the eating windows you are consuming those foods are just single components to a much larger complex landscape. So again, to make the claim that you can somehow contract your eating window and largely eat more of the foods without too much fear and consequence is certainly a bit short-sighted.
So let's talk about some of the foods that people associate with energy boosting. And not a day goes by you don't see a TV commercial or something on the internet that protein increases your energy. Now, as I've talked about in the last 2 books, The Energy Paradox and Unlocking the Keto Code, let's be clear about this. Energy is ATP.
100% you eat foods, your body extracts sugars from those foods, and these sugars are broken down into glucose that ultimately gets imported into your mitochondria, which produce the energy currency that your body runs on, that Dr Gundry is referring to, ATP or adenosine triphosphate. So it's going to be interesting to see where he is taking this conversation.
Adenosine triphosphate. That's our energy currency. And we know that ATP is produced by mitochondria, the little energy-producing organelles in most of our cells. Mitochondria have to take protein, sugar, carbohydrates, and fats and break them down to produce ATP. But if you've looked at either of those books or listened to them, you know that in our society, we bombard our mitochondria simultaneously with simple proteins, simple sugars, and simple fats.
Absolutely, and we know that when we isolate sugars, fats and proteins and overload the body with these, many people will run into health problems.
The mitochondria were never designed to handle all at once. And living in the LA area that I do, we produce rush hour in our mitochondria, unfortunately, 16 hours a day. And so energy producing foods like protein, for instance, may have actually the exact opposite effect on producing energy.
Again, people in blue zones, who are the longest lived people in the world, often eat across 13 to 16 hour windows, so this notion that intermittent fasting is the be all and end all is very bizarre. Intermittent fasting is beneficial for some, but not everyone.
Plus, be cautious. So many high protein drinks, so many high protein energy bars also are high sugar. And the combo of simple broken down proteins and simple broken down sugars is the perfect way to have gridlock in your mitochondria and actually have less energy rather than more.
Yes, if you are talking about more processed refined foods, but if you're eating close to whole foods, then for many people it doesn't massively matter if they are eating between 8 and 5 or between 8 and 3. If eating intermittently works for you, like it does for me, then ace, but don't be led into believing it is a necessity for optimal health.
Another bomb is fruit smoothies. Now everybody knows, oh, fruit's good for me. I'm going to have a fruit smoothie before my workout. It's going to give me so much energy to get through my workout. Well, as human studies have shown, breaking down fruit into simple fructose by using a smoothie, fructose is the #1 way to impair our mitochondrial function in our liver.
No, because when you are consuming the smoothie, the fiber is still present, and this will help blunt the sugar spike from simple isolated sugars. And there are many studies and trials that have demonstrated this, so I don't know where these claims that Dr Gundry is making are originating from, because it is certainly not the literature.
It actually lessens ATP production and increases fatty liver.
I would love to see one credible study that shows drinking smoothies in a healthy, balanced diet causes fatty liver.
And so a fruit smoothie is the last thing you want for energy. But Dr. Gundry, I have to have these things to get through my workout. Well, the exciting thing is, in human trials, exercising on an empty stomach actually has you produce more ATP and get more benefit out of your program.
Exercising on a full stomach has never been optimal, but again, his statements here are so bizarre. If you are drinking a smoothie with its fiber present, then your body will absorb this at a consistent, steady rate and will therefore produce ATP at a steady, consistent level. So yes, your body may produce slightly more ATP molecules in each cell on an empty stomach compared to drinking a smoothie an hour before you head to the gym, but the differences are something that only an elite athlete may care about. So the energy production difference for a normal person who is going to the gym is very negligible. So again, I don't understand his point or logic here. Who really cares as a normal person if you are producing 1 to 3% more energy? Of course you wouldn't. People have much more important things to worry about than nonsense like this.
Than if you ate beforehand. And I like to use the example of my mother and swimming in the summer. Many of you were raised at a time when, after you ate lunch, your mother basically set a timer that you had to wait an hour to go swimming after you ate lunch. And that's because there was an old wives' tale that was partially correct, that if you went swimming before that, you would get cramps and die.
Exactly, it's an old wives' tale. But yes, you clearly don't want to exercise with a full stomach, but I don't get where he is going with this. How does this benefit a normal, healthy adult?
And that wouldn't be a good idea. Where did that wives' tale come from? After you eat anything, a great deal of your blood flow is put down into your intestines and your stomach to digest the food you just ate. So if you're going to go exercise, like swimming for example, you wouldn't have enough blood flow to your muscles because it's down in your gut, and you would get cramps and die.
Good job. Many people don't follow wives' tales and they follow common sense. Well, at least some people anyway.
So think about that the next time you say, I need an energy bar before my workout, or I need a smoothie before my workout. You're actually reducing the amount of blood available to your muscles because a lot of it is down there working. So remember, ATP is energy. Now, getting an energy feeling from coffee or simple sugar has nothing to do with the amount of energy production you're actually doing.
How have we gone from ATP to coffee without there even being a point here for the average person?
And that's the difference. If you want energy, we're talking about taking the workload off of your mitochondria. Lastly, what about a ketogenic diet for athletic performance? Well, as I detail in a lot of detail in Unlocking the Keto Code, if you look at human trials of ketosis, human muscles start to get most of their calories from ketone bodies at about 3 days into a fast.
I do hope this is not going to turn into another false ketogenic diet propaganda video.
After 3 days, we actually switch from using ketones as a fuel to free fatty acids. So you would think from human trials that if ketones were the best source of fuel, that there would be human studies that show a ketogenic diet should improve athletic performance at 3 days, starting a ketogenic diet. And in fact, the research is exactly opposite.
Thank God Dr Gundry is following science here and not voodoo. Your body's designed to run on carbohydrates, period. And no amount of propaganda is going to undo human evolution. Until I see the other great apes following a ketogenic diet, then I'll stick with my species-specific high-carb diet. So credit where credit is due to Dr Gundry, that he hasn't been indoctrinated into the keto world of nonsense.
That anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks, starting a ketogenic diet, your athletic performance plummets, which once again shows that ketones are not the super fuel that people think they are. Plus, we know from human trials with race walkers on a ketogenic diet that race walkers had to actually have more oxygen consumption to get the same level of athletic performance as race walkers eating a carbohydrate-centric diet.
It's really just common sense. Your cells are designed to run optimally on carbs. Take these away and most people will perform less optimally on a keto approach. Yes, there will always be isolated cases where the occasional athlete follows a keto diet, but the vast majority of athletes are operating on carbs because they are listening to the science and experts and not nut jobs on the internet.
So that's why it's really important that we think of energy as ATP production and not as this feeling of energy that so many of the commercials mistakenly aim your ideas at. don't believe these commercials, unfortunately.
Clearly not. Following commercials for nutrition advice is the equivalent to listening to a bankrupt for money advice.
So what do I eat for energy? Well, for my patients, I actually want them to eat like a gorilla who lives in Italy. By that I mean you want to have slow burning calories from leaves. You want to get all the phytonutrients, all the polyphenols from eating the rainbow of leaves. And you want to get all that fiber for your gut bacteria to make all of these energy substrates that our mitochondria need to become maximized at energy production.
Amen, but for the average person going to the gym, drinking a smoothie an hour before, then this is absolutely irrelevant, and this is an absolutely pointless conversation to be had.
And why the olive oil? The olive oil is a great source of polyphenols to accomplish just that. Plus, it tastes great.
So a smoothie is bad, but olive oil is good for energy production. What do you even say to this form of nonsense?
So, eat like a gorilla who lives in Italy if you want endless energy. That's all for today.
How about just eating like a gorilla full stop? The gorilla's diet is perfectly fine for a gorilla to live a long and healthy life. So until I see a primate glugging down extra virgin olive oil, then I think I'll stick to whole foods. Anyhow, I really don't understand the points that were made in Dr Gundry's video, all of the things to be concerned with in human health. The points made are things that I wouldn't even give a second thought about, other than the fact that ketogenic diets are not good. Anyhow, that's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out this one up here because I'm sure you'll find it equally interesting. And the only other thing that's left for me to say is to remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.